Hi, welcome to Bonita's Kitchen and thank you for joining us. What I'm going to be making today is a steamed molasses pudding. This is a delicious traditional Newfoundland recipe and one that was made years ago every Sunday. And what we would have with it is a jigs dinner. And usually, our elders would cover it with gravy. And then you can have it for a dessert, which then it's used with either a caramel sauce or a white cream sauce. We're going to do a white cream sauce today. So what I'm going to get doing is get started. I'll tell you the ingredients I'm going to be using, and then I'll give you a little bit more details as we go. We are going to be using dark molasses, some raisins, egg. We're going to be using water, flour, and the flour is made right here in Newfoundland, Bay Roberts. We're going to be using oil, baking soda, ground cloves, and some salt. So let's get started blending all of this together. So what we'll do first, we'll take a large egg. I'm going to break. I usually like to break it in here first to make sure there's no shells. And then I'm going to dump it on into my bowl. Then I'm going to mix in a quarter of a cup of dark molasses, and we're going to blend all of this together. Now this is a delicious steamed molasses pudding, and I don't have one on Bonita's Kitchen right now, but I do have lots of puddings. But this one you'll love. Anything molasses is delicious with ground cloves. This is a teaspoonful of baking soda. I'm going to be putting it in a half a cup of water, cold water. Just toss it on in there and stir that around. And we're going to put this directly into the same bowl with the molasses and the egg. Just toss it on in. Okay, we're moving right along here. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to be putting in about a quarter of a cup of flour into a cup of raisins, and I'm just going to move that around in there to coat the raisins. Reason for coating the raisins is to help it from all sinking to the bottom of your pudding when you're steaming it. And the same goes for if you're using berries. It doesn't matter, it's across the board. So what we'll do next, we're going to sift in our flour, which is a cup and a half of flour, less the quarter of a cup that's into your raisins, and a half a teaspoonful of sea salt and a teaspoonful of ground cloves. So we're going to add those dry ingredients together, sift them on into our bowl, and then I'll start blending those together. What a delicious smell of ground cloves coming up to my nose. Absolutely amazing. So just stir this around, folding it all together, and adding in your 2 tablespoonfuls of oil. I'm just using a vegetable oil here. And you're going to mix this on in together like this. Then I'm going to be adding in the cup of raisins that's been coated with flour. Toss them on in. You can have raisins of choice, whatever you want. Currants, raisins of any type. It doesn't matter. Whatever you enjoy eating the most. So that's just folded in there. I always like to get a little bit over my counter and a little bit over the bowl. Okay, so what I'll do now is get my pudding pan and show you what's next. Okay, so again, we're coming along nice. I hope you're following along and you're enjoying it so far. What I got here is a pudding pan. It's got a lid and then it locks down afterwards. So this is what I'm going to use today for this pudding. And I'm going to lightly grease it inside, give it a little oiling with butter or oil, it doesn't matter. And if you don't have an actual pudding pan, you can use anything that's safe in water for boiling and something with a lid, or you can put foil wrap over the top and seal that around just so that there's no water getting in there. You're just steaming this pudding. So what I'm going to do now is put all of our molasses pudding into my pudding pan. So you're just going to put all of the batter from the pudding on into your pan. So once this is all done, like you said, you'll have your water already on steaming. I'm going to show you that now in a bit. And with a grate in the bottom, because you never want to, even if you're using a tin, especially if you're using glass or any sort, you don't want to break it, and you don't want for the heat to burn your pudding in the bottom, from the bottom of the pan. So I'll show you all of that as we get to it. So I'm just going to continue putting all this in here, and I'll show you what's next. Okay, so what you're going to do next, you're going to, if you're using a pudding pan, you're going to put the lid on the top. If you're using a regular pan of whatever sort, a tin pan, I'm not certain what you're going to be using, but a pudding pan you can get in your store, in any of the kitchen stores. You probably can buy it, or even online. You're going to cover it with foil wrap if you don't have a lid, and keep it so that it don't leak out. And what I say by leak out, water going into your pudding or your pudding coming out of your tin, because you want to keep everything inside because you're steaming it. And what we're going to do as well, you're going to put a quarter of water, cold water or hot water, into your boiler. Okay, so your water needs to be a quarter of the ways up your boiler like this, and if you do halfways it's fine, just as long as it don't go over the container that you're using. Check it, if you've got a glass top to your boiler, check it to make sure it don't boil dry halfways through boiling. If you can't see in through, lift it and add more water, because you don't want it to boil dry. So put a grate at the bottom of your boiler, then put your pudding inside, and then put the lid on that. And this is all you got to do for that. So what you're going to do next, you're going to take your boiler, put it on your stove top on a medium heat. You're going to let that boil, but you're putting steam for 1 hour and a half. Then after, you can take it out of your pot, and then I'm going to show you what that looks like. But before I do, I'm going to get my cream sauce going, show you how to make this nice light creamy sauce that will go over your steamed molasses pudding when it's steamed. So let's get going on that. So while we're waiting for our steamed molasses pudding to cook, now we're going to make our white cream sauce. So I'm going to tell you the ingredients as I put it into my saucepan, and then we'll get going. So in a small or medium saucepan, you're going to put 2 tablespoonfuls of butter, and you're going to start this to melt. So that's your butter melting there now, and you're going to put 1/3 cup of white sugar. I'm saying white sugar because we're doing a white cream sauce. So if you don't want to use white sugar and you want to use another sugar, that's fine, but I can't guarantee that it's going to be a white sauce, right? So what we're going to do now is add in 1/2 cup of milk. So while we're waiting for this to start to bubble up again and start to cook a little, or to heat up I should say, we're going to be putting in 2 tablespoonfuls of flour into a mason jar, and we're going to be using about 1/2 cup of cold water in there with it. Put the lid on, and we're going to shake this around, and just to make sure there's no lumps into the flour. Okay, so what we're going to do is release the lid and pour in our flour sauce into the milk and sugar and the butter. Just let this start to cook just a little tiny bit to cook down that flour. And then we're going to start adding in a few more ingredients to kick it up a notch. Okay, so when you see that your white cream sauce is starting to get nice, creamy, and a little thick, you're going to take it off the heat, turn off your damper, And then I'm going to add in some more ingredients, and I'm going to show you what they are. We're going to be adding in a half a teaspoonful of almond extract. That's just to give a little flavor. If you don't like almond extract, you can use a clear vanilla, or I guess an extract of choice. I'm going to be using 1/8 of a teaspoonful of nutmeg, and whatever amount you want to use of grated orange zest and grated lemon zest. So it's probably about 1/2 teaspoonful that I got there, but you could use whatever you want to use in that. Stir that around, and you got yourself a delicious creamy white sauce for your steamed molasses pudding. Okay, so after you got your cream sauce made, keep it on warm until you're ready to use it, or make it closer to when your pudding is ready, because your pudding will be steaming for 1.5 hours. But I already got one steamed in advance, so I'm going to show you what that looks like. Then when you're ready to serve it, you just take your nice cream sauce, pour into a dish, because if you got company, you want for them to serve themselves, and that way they can pour it over on their own. Now what we're going to do is open up our big reveal, show you what our steamed molasses pudding looks like. We're going to put a plate on the top and then tip it out and just give it a few minutes there, tapping on it to let it come out. Okay, so this is the big reveal. This is what your steamed molasses pudding is going to look like. You can turn it the other way if you want to. I have it back up this way if you don't want it, you know, upside down. So what I'm going to do now is cut off a nice piece, serve it with some of that white cream sauce, and show you what it looks like. Okay, so now I'm going to have a nice piece here. So what you got to remember, you can serve this hot, you can serve it cold, it doesn't matter. And you can serve it with a white cream sauce, you can serve it with a caramel sauce, and I got that on Bonita's Kitchen as well. And the way they did it years ago, the elders, they served it with gravy. So now this is what your steamed molasses pudding is going to look like. Just look at how delicious this steamed molasses pudding looks, and the smell is absolutely divine. Now I'm going to put it sideways so you can see the cream sauce over it. You can see in there as well all of the raisins is staying in place because you add that little drizzle of flour on it. So what we're going to do now is just pour the cream sauce over. I usually got it over the table as well, but right now I've done good. And that's that. Now I'm going to have a little taste and tell you what it tastes like. Okay, so now I'm going to have a little taste to tell you what it tastes like. It's nice and moist, and of course the sauce is creamy. So tender. And that cream sauce just adds to the flavor, of course. You can taste the cloves, the raisins, and the molasses all blend together really good. Absolutely delicious, and I can't wait for you to try this one. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I'm just going to have a little taste of my tea to wash down my steamed my steamed molasses pudding, but it's got raisins in it as well. So this is a simple recipe, and one that you could make in advance if you're going to have company. You don't have to worry about not staying fresh. You could wrap it and then rewarm it the next day. But if you got this nice warm cream sauce, it will be absolutely delicious no matter when you serve it. So if you enjoyed this recipe and you want to see more of our traditional and non-traditional Newfoundland recipes, viewers' requests, and choices by Bonita, please visit our website www.bonitaskitchen.com, our Facebook page, and go visit us on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. So thank you for joining us once again here on Bonita's Kitchen. From our kitchen to yours, you have a wonderful day.